And let's talk about QAD related communication with suppliers, right? So as you see on my screen, there is the number one communication is the POs, right? You create a PO, the supplier gets the PO, and the supplier needs to confirm the PO. Now, what's important about communication, right? So everything is within the portal, all the communication with the supplier. So you can audit, there's no mistakes, everybody's looking on the same data. So when the supplier gets it and try to confirm, they can just confirm it. If they don't, they get alerts. That's also communication. Confirm the PO. And then if they don't do it, after a while, the portal alerts the buyer. There's an exception here. You may need to be involved. So the buyer only need to be involved with the exceptions. 80, 90% of the time, it just flow. Supplier confirm the POs. Supplier may ask to change the PO, either changing the due date or changing or split lines. So if you have a PO and it says, okay, we need 1,000 by the end of June, the supplier may ask to change it to the end of July. Or they can say, I can give you 700 by the end of June and another 300 by the end of July. The buyer has to approve these requests. Okay, so now the portal is communicated with the buyer. It says, hey, Mr. Buyer, this supplier with this PO has some request. The changes are either directly changing the due dates, if it is a due date change, or changing the performance date in QAD. Now, just in general, I assume that a lot of you, that all of you know the screens in QAD. Very important, right? That's number one. Number two, requisitions and approvals, right? This is something that is also QAD related. You have a requisition, I need approved. With the portal, also it comes as with a mobile application, and you can do it on your phone. We're also working on to do it on your smartwatch. Now, it depends on the QAD version that you have. If you have the web UI, you already have it with QAD. You don't need us. If you have older versions, you probably need us. Other communications that you need to do with the supplier. Two in particular, Kanban and Min Max. Okay, so if you do Kanban with the supplier, you need the supplier to be alerted, and you need the supplier to report back to you. So this is now supplier portal. You have the loops, you have the cards, and you have like the reorder points, and you have the cards if they're full, if they're acknowledged, right? The supplier does it directly from the portal, and you get reported on it directly into QAD. Okay. We also consider the quantity on hand and the quantity on hand with the quantity in transit. Okay. And that ties into ASNs and other areas that you communicate with the suppliers. So with Kanban, if you're familiar with that, either you do it internally or you do it with the supplier. You know that it is important to be on top. Everything needs to be on time. Min-max, similar. The suppliers will report directly to the portal. When will be the next delivery date, and is going to be alerted if the quantity is below your levels. The supplier portal also provide multipliers to the supplier, right? So when they deliver, right, when you need 4 and the multiplier is 2, you need 2 because everyone has 2, so it's going to be 4. So after these areas, these are, I think, the top that you need to communicate with the suppliers. The other areas that the suppliers need some information from QAD. Now, in the first place, why do you need the supplier portal? Because obviously you don't want the supplier to log into your QAD, right? You want something third party outside of QAD that you can control what data goes in, what data does not, and the supplier can see only their information. All right, so the next area is statements and rebates. So suppliers can log into the portal at any time, see their statements, of course, payments and invoices. They can submit invoices and they can see their payments. And this is going to tie also to integration with third parties, that the supplier portal is integrated with the DocLib AP automation. But we're going to get to that. And last but not least, when it comes to the QAD, there is the supplier performance and scorecards that if you manage it in QAD, it will appear in the portal, and the supplier can get the scorecards emailed to them, and also they can log in and see their performance through time. So this is the areas that QAD related communication with suppliers. And if any of these you need to enhance with your own operation, and I just gave you an idea, go ahead and do that. You're going to be surprised how many times communication with supplier is being skipped on different areas. It is important, in my opinion, to cover all areas with the supplier. So let's talk about a non-QAD related communication. So your suppliers, right? You maintain their contacts. The supplier portal allows the suppliers to maintain their own contacts. So if the supplier has, and you can define what contacts you want the suppliers to have. So you can be like, who's my contact for performance? Who's my contact for customer service? Who's my VP of operation, right? And some of them are mandatory, some of them are not. The supplier portal is going to remind the supplier to fill up the contacts. So when alerts are generated from the portal, it's going to be generated to the correct people. Now, the supplier can have multiple users to the portal, and they can have multiple users and emails for the same contact type. So there's maybe 2 people in customer service that you need to contact. Another area of non-QAD communication, these are surveys. You may want to survey your customers. If you have, let's say, customers in Ohio, there was a train accident. You want to see if that affects their performance. If you have international, right? If there's any suppliers that you have near Ukraine, does the war in Ukraine affect them? What items does it affect? So you can create a survey, send it to the suppliers, and they can answer, and you can review and then apply it to your operation. Of course, alerts, I already mentioned that. We have a slew of alerts per site, per supplier, per domain. The supplier portal also handles multiple QAD domains. Documents. A lot of times you want to share documents with the suppliers, packing instructions, any other notes or documents or images that you want the supplier to share with you. So the supplier portal is facilitate all these areas. So in the supplier portal, you can have a document library, and you can look up documents by different categories, ISO, receiving, any of these, and you can view the documents, and documents can have a revision, and right from here you can see also if there's a contact information per document. You can have it in the portal, and if I open the document right away, I get it right here. And of course, another thing that I mentioned is that if you have a new document, everybody's looking on the latest document. Two other areas that is non-QAD related, KPIs, right? And well, that's a little bit QAD related, and audits, and access report, right? So if you want to know, which supplier went when and what did they see, when did they log in, it's all managed through the portal. You can run it, and you see what IP and what supplier, and what's the name of the supplier. Let's talk about three other areas. First one is a combination of QAD and non-QAD. For example, the PO portal, the supplier portal allows PO approval process, where you create the PO in the portal, go through signatures, and then it's created in QAD. So it's a combination, right? The data comes from QAD, the approval is a non-QAD process, and then the creation of the PO at the end is directly into QAD, and it will eliminate errors. You don't need to type the PO, right? It's already coming from the portal directly into QAD. RFQ, RFEs, and ASNs. RFQ for existing items, and you can work it out in the portal. That's again the information, the basic information, items, suppliers, supplier items come from QAD. The process itself is handled in the portal. The supplier will get an alert, there is an RFQ for you. They will log in, put the information, price, and other information, and then they can submit that, and the buyers can review and approve. And RFE is for items that don't exist in QAD, request for estimate. So let's say if I need a custom motorcycle, I can use the portal to generate estimates from suppliers, and that will feed into the sales team usually, and they can compile their own proposals to the customers. And of course, ASN. Usually ASN, this stuff is usually comes the ASN usually is a EDI. Most people using X12, and if you know what I'm talking about, envelope 856 with X12. However, not everybody's using it. If the supplier can provide their own ASN, either upload the CSV file or can update the ASN itself, can update the next delivery dates. They can create it, says where it's coming from. They can put the tracking number, and we link to the carrier like FedEx or any other carrier, and to see to track the shipments. The two other parts are integration with third-party of QAD partners. So the supplier portal integrates with three partners, specifically QAD partners. One is the ISS group. Andy is here representing them. ISS group product I purchase, very good product, and you can see it on my screen here. The information is flowing between iPurchase and the supplier portal. So if you have that, or you want to have it in the future, supplier portal works with it. Of course, DocLib AP automation for supplier invoices and supplier payments. The supplier can review it and see the history and the payments from the portal. And of course, Broom Street Purchase Desk mobile app, where you can approve requisition and additional functions that are part of the Broom Street set of mobile apps. And this one is designed specifically for buyers to work with the suppliers. The last area of communication that I want to talk with, and then I'm going to open it for Q&A, is integration with third party that are non-QAD partners. For example, if you have documents that are from a different system, where you manage you have like a document, a management system. So you can say when you have the documents, you can reference them by a the document ID, for example, and we can communicate. If there is an integration that we don't have, of course, our programmers will be happy to integrate with any other system that you want. Additional systems that usually we saw people use with suppliers is third-party quality systems to grade suppliers and provide them with a color code and a grade. And of course, any other system, as I mentioned, we can integrate if they have the API.